All right. In the interest of time, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you, everyone, for taking time out of your day to join us. Before we proceed, we're just going to go through a few housekeeping notes. First of all, this workshop is being recorded, and everyone will receive a copy of that recording following today's session. So if you happen to miss anything or need to step away, not to worry. Again, you're going to receive a copy of this recording. That being said, I encourage you to put your questions in the Q&A. I'm joined by some of my incredible colleagues, Katie, Matt, Rafa, and Kyle, who are going to be helping to answer as many of those questions as possible. I can't guarantee that we're going to be able to answer all of them. We have a lot of you on today. I know you're all interested in hearing about some of these policy updates, but if you do have questions, you can put those in the Q&A. And last but not least, if you need to enable closed captioning or live transcription during the webinar, I'll be posting a link in the chat with instructions on how to enable this feature on Zoom. All right, so a quick look at the agenda we're going to cover here today. First, I'm going to do some brief introductions of myself, our team, and who we are here at Savi. And then we're going to dive right into some of these policy updates. Today, we're going to talk about the SAVE plan status, what's going on with these lawsuits, what it means for you and your repayment. We're also going to talk about the on-ramp to repayment that is coming to an end September 30th. We're also going to talk about the end of a program called Fresh Start, which is also coming to an end September 30th as well. And then we're going to wrap it up by going through some of the new forgiveness programs and where things currently stand as far as programs like public service loan forgiveness and others. And then I'm going to talk to you all about some of the next steps and how you can utilize your Savi account to help you navigate through each and every one of these updates. My name is Lindsay Clark. I'm the Chief Borrower Advocate here at Savi. I've been with Savi since the very beginning, and I'm a borrower myself. I have a little over $200,000 in student loan debt, and I say that because I hope it makes some of you feel better about your own situations, but really because it impacts how I approach communicating about these topics. I know firsthand how overwhelming and complicated they can be, and so my goal today is really to distill that information and to communicate it to you in a way that is easy to understand and actionable. And so I hope that you can all leave here today feeling better than when you arrived, but with a clear action plan in mind of anything that you may need to do. I work for a company called Savi. Savi is a social impact technology startup based in Washington, D.C. We were founded by student loan experts and advocates who have been fighting on behalf of the borrower for more than a decade. And we realized how difficult it was for borrowers to navigate enrolling in some of these government programs like income-driven repayment or public service loan forgiveness. So we developed Savi as a technology platform and a human service to help borrowers like you and like me not only better understand our student loan debt, but to navigate successfully from start to finish around some of those programs. But along the way, our goal is to make the experience of being a student loan borrower a better one, because I think we can all agree that it's not great. So we try to do that by identifying as much additional savings as possible on a monthly basis through things like income-driven repayment. We like to say at Savi that borrowers are our top priority. There are a lot of entities in this space that service your debt and your loans, and they make money off of servicing your debt and your loans, and that becomes their priority. And at Savi, we're the opposite. We truly like to put the borrower first and make sure that you are protected and advocated for, and hopefully try to help you reach the best outcome possible. Which is why we're here today. So you have access to this webinar and to Savi's platform as an exclusive student loan benefit through either your employer, association, membership union, things like that. This is how you are accessing Savi. We partner with some of these incredible organizations across the country because we truly believe it's the best way to help reach borrowers where they are. It's a trusted messenger to convey this information. So not just anyone can have access to Savi. It is sort of delivered through those partnerships. And it's not just for you, but it's for your family members as well. We really want to try to make sure that Savi is helping each and every one of you and everyone in your community, because we know that student debt, as I like to say, can run in families. All right, so with introductions out of the way, let's dive right in, and we're going to talk about the SAVE plan first, which stands for Saving on a Valuable Education. All right, so first, let's just back up a little bit and give some context as to what the SAVE plan is. So it is one of the newest income-driven repayment plans. There are 4 total that the Department of Education released last summer. And they released it with the intention of it being the most affordable income-driven repayment plan to date. So a couple things that make it the most affordable. First, any unpaid interest is covered. That way your balance doesn't increase regardless of how little you might be paying each month. And you could be paying as little as $0 a month. I know many of you out there can certainly relate to the feeling of making payments every month on your student loans for years, if not decades or more, and your balance not only does not increase, it actually increases. And that's a result of capitalized interest. So under the SAVE plan, regardless of how little you're paying each month, and like I said, it could be as little as $0, your balance will never increase as a result of that interest. Unfortunately, it doesn't cover any retroactive interest, but again, it's going to prevent it from going up in the future. So that's one element that helps to make it the most affordable. The other is that it helps to lower that monthly payment even more, so that no borrower making less than $15 an hour will have a monthly payment. And borrowers making over $15 an hour will still qualify, but they're still going to see a lower monthly payment on SAVE. So hopefully borrowers should see that lowest monthly payment when looking at that SAVE plan. Now, as far as eligibility goes, borrowers with FFEL loans can consolidate those loans to become eligible. Borrowers with Parent Plus loans, unfortunately, are not eligible for SAVE even after they've consolidated. But anyone and everyone with direct loans, those loans are eligible for the SAVE plan. Okay. All right, so what is going on with the SAVE plan right now? Well, there have been some ongoing lawsuits that threaten to basically hold up the SAVE plan from being further implemented. So starting July 1, there was supposed to be another wave of improvements that the SAVE plan was going to experience. And they included payments were now going to be capped at 5% of your discretionary income for undergrad borrowers. And borrowers with lower original loan balances, less than $12,000, were going to be able to qualify for forgiveness earlier. Those were the 2 sort of changes or improvements that were going to go into effect July 1. Now, as a result of lawsuits, and a July 18th ruling by a federal court, it basically put all of that on hold. So those new improvements and the SAVE plan entirely were prevented from moving forward. Now, in response to the court ruling, the following has occurred. Anyone who is already enrolled in the SAVE plan is going to be placed on an interest-free forbearance. So if you are enrolled in SAVE, and there are about 8 million people enrolled in SAVE right now, your loans will be put on an administrative forbearance where you will not accrue interest and you will not have to make a payment. Okay. They've also paused the processing of IDR applications across the board. So if you try to apply right now, you'll likely be put into what's called a processing forbearance while they process your application. And that could last up to 60 days, at which point, if it's still taking longer than that, you will be put into this administrative forbearance going forward. So they are not allowed to process any payments on this SAVE plan. All right. You can try to make a payment voluntarily, but it will not count as a payment towards the SAVE plan, nor will it count towards public service loan forgiveness. Okay. It just won't count. Right. They've also paused the processing of applications online. They've taken that online portal down. So you're not able to enroll in line. However, the good news about Savi is that we are still able to process paper applications. That's how we've done it since the beginning. We digitize those, pre-fill them, and submit them to your servicer on your behalf. And that's the only way that they are accepting applications right now. So this is going to make it even easier for anyone who is still trying to enroll in the SAVE plan. You can do that through Savi. Okay. Now, I will say you are able to enroll in some of the other income-driven repayment plans, but again, those applications are taking a very long time to process. So borrowers are also being put onto an administrative forbearance. So what I would look for in looking at your servicing account is if you see that you are no payment is due, that means you've been put onto this forbearance. If you still have a monthly payment due and you're unable to afford that payment, I would encourage you to reach out to your servicer. You may need to put yourself onto a forbearance. You can ask for that over the phone. All right, but that is what's currently going on right now. We've talked to the Department of Education. They are hopeful that there may be some resolution in the near future, but we cannot guarantee that. And so people may be on a forbearance for at least the next couple of months, if not longer. And the future of the SAVE plan really depends on how the Supreme Court is going to rule going forward. So again, this is the latest information right now. We know it's not an ideal situation, but for those of you especially who are interested in trying to get PSLF credit for these months, don't worry, there is something called PSLF buyback. And maybe one of my colleagues is able to put a link in the chat to the page on studentaid.gov that explains this. But this will allow you to go back to these forbearance months that you're not able to get credit for and essentially buy back those months as credit towards public service loan forgiveness. I know many people are at or near that 120 as this is going on, and this will be a way for you to still sort of reclaim those credits retroactively. So don't worry too much on that front. All right, now I want to talk about the on-ramp to repayment, which again is coming to an end September 30th. So what is the on-ramp to repayment? So when payments resumed for the first time in over 3 years last October, all right, so hopefully everyone remembers, or maybe we have some new borrowers out here, but during the COVID pandemic, payments were paused and interest was waived, okay, for the majority of student loan borrowers. That started March of 2020 and went through the end of September 2023, okay? And payments then resumed for the first time last October. Now, in realizing and understanding how borrowers would potentially struggle in resuming repayment, because this was something they hadn't had to do in over 3 years, right? Now they were going to have to make those payments each month. The Department of Education implemented what they called the on-ramp to repayment. That began basically October 1 and would last through this September 30th. And it was essentially a safety net for borrowers that if they missed their payment or were late or made a partial payment during this period of time, they would not be reported delinquent to their credit agencies. So they would not suffer or experience the same negative consequences of missing a payment, making a payment late that they normally would. Now, if you missed payments during this time, interest would still accrue, but you, again, would not be reported delinquent and would not go into default. So to reiterate, payments were still due. It didn't mean it was optional. And if you were able to make your payments, you should, especially if you were trying to pursue public service loan forgiveness. But again, if you weren't able to make your payment, you're not going to be penalized for it like you normally would. Okay, so that's what this on-ramp was. And it is coming to a close September 30th, which means October and October's monthly payment, if you miss that payment or any payments thereafter, you will be penalized, go into delinquency, and even could go into default on your loans. Okay, and that's really, really serious because once you go into default, there's a further step beyond that that I would say I encourage every borrower to avoid at all costs if they can. When you're in default for long enough, it doesn't act like a private debt where, yes, of course, it dings your credit, but then it eventually gets sold off. No, because it's a federal debt, the government will come after it endlessly until death, essentially. And so what that means is when you're in default for a long enough period, they will escalate that to a garnishment phase. And there are kind of three options. There's wage garnishment, which means 15% of every paycheck will go to your student loan payment. You have no say in the matter. It comes out right before you even get it. Or tax garnishment, your tax refunds will be automatically taken and put towards this debt. Or even Social Security garnishment. They will garnish your Social Security checks as well, if that's applicable. So that's sort of the most severe case, right? Where you've gone delinquent, go into default, and then you go into one of those garnishments. And you go into default after 270 days, sort of late on that payment. So again, we want to make sure everyone is aware of this because if you have not yet set up your payment, we want to make sure that you do. We want to be there to help you to do that. And of course, you can enroll in an income-driven repayment plan. These applications are obviously taking longer to process, but we wanted you to get it in as quickly as possible, so that you can either be put on a forbearance, right? That's okay. That's the nature of what's happening right now. You have no control over that, but at least it will mean you're not missing that payment. Okay. And you can use Savi, as we'll show you a little bit later on, to look at what repayment options you have, and see how you might be able to lower that monthly payment. All right, another program that I want to talk about is the Fresh Start program, and that is also coming to an end September 30th. All right, so what was the Fresh Start program? It was essentially a get out of default quick program. Many times, or I should say, most times, when you fall into default, in order to bring your loans back into good standing, if that's your intention, it requires a lengthy 9-month rehabilitation process, during which you have to agree to make 9 consecutive months worth of on-time payments in order to do so. And many borrowers, unfortunately, do not end up making it through those 9 months. So they created this program called Fresh Start, which would essentially allow borrowers to avoid the whole rehabilitation. And with a simple phone call or going online, they could initiate this Fresh Start and basically rehabilitate or get their loans out of default in about a month or less. Okay. So it's designed to bring borrowers back into good standing really quickly. And what being in good standing means is that you'll have restored access to income-driven repayment, forgiveness, new aid, no more wage garnishment or collection calls and things like that. Okay. Now, in order to initiate or enroll in this Fresh Start program to get your loans back into good standing, you need to opt in via phone with your respective collections agency. Okay. There's also a website that you can go to called myeddebt.gov. That website is where anybody in default can manage their loans. And I'll put this link in the chat as well. You can initiate it through that online website. It takes about 1 month to complete, but you just need to initiate it before the end of September. Okay. So again, that ends September 30th as well. So this one, I would say, especially for those, that are in default, is such a unique opportunity to avoid the lengthy rehabilitation process and with a phone call, be able to bring your loans back into good standing within a month. All right, last but not least, let's talk about some of the new forgiveness initiatives. So these are some of the things we want you to know about some of the changes that have been recently announced by the Department of Education, that can hopefully help you sort of going forward as we navigate these all together. All right, so let's talk about what's happening with the Biden administration's latest forgiveness initiative. If you all remember a couple of years ago at this point, when President Biden tried to push through sort of broad-based cancellation of about $10,000 to $20,000, and there was an enrollment process, and then there were some lawsuits that reached the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court shut it down, and it was not able to be implemented. So this is sort of the next iteration or wave of that. And instead of doing it by executive order, they are trying to push it through under the normal rulemaking process. And what that means is that they're trying to follow the rules of it going through Congress and review in order to make sure that it doesn't, go against any lawsuits. So here's the latest iteration of what they've been working on. So they want to try to have more people qualify for forgiveness, but they want to deliver that forgiveness in more targeted, specific ways. So they've broken it down into sort of 4 main groups or categories here. The first is borrowers who owe more now than they did at the start of their repayment. So your balance, increased as a result of that capitalized or runaway interest. This one would certainly be me. Borrowers who have been in repayment for decades. So 20 years or more for undergrad, or 25 years or more for grad. Borrowers who are otherwise eligible for loan forgiveness but have not yet applied. So let's say you're eligible for forgiveness under income-driven repayment, or your school closed because of discharge. You would be eligible to have your loans forgiven without needing to fill out an application. They would be able to identify you on their own and be able to process that for you. And then last but not least, borrowers who enrolled in low-value financial programs. So these are schools that failed to meet the Department of Education standards. Again, there's usually an application involved here that a borrower has to submit. And what they're proposing is that they're going to be able to identify these borrowers based on the school and initiate that forgiveness for them. Now, none of these programs are official yet, and they are still pending approval and in the process of trying to be pushed through, like I said, under the normal rulemaking procedures. However, this is where they stand at this point in time. So we should hopefully learn more in the coming months on how these things progress. Okay, so what does this mean? Well, borrowers who fall into one of those four categories or more could be eligible for forgiveness soon if this ends up going through. The Department of Education has begun to notify borrowers if they qualify. Some of you may actually have even received an email from the Department of Education letting you know you had until August 30th to opt out if you did not wish to receive this forgiveness. Giving you the option to opt out was simply a way for them to also avoid potential lawsuits because they were giving you an opportunity to not receive the forgiveness. So, if you're asking, well, why would anyone want to opt out? They wouldn't, but that's something that they needed to do in order to make it easier for them to avoid lawsuits going forward. Excuse me. So just to reiterate, this forgiveness is not official yet, and it's still pending. And it's in no way guaranteed, but the Department of Education has made these proposals, is pushing them through the normal rulemaking process, and is waiting for final approval. So, of course, we will continue to update you on any movement as it happens in the next couple of months. All right, before we dive into frequently asked questions, which I think is going to be a helpful way to sort of recap some of the things that you guys might be thinking, make sure we're all on the same page. I'm just taking a quick peek at the Q&A. It looks like our team has been trying to answer as many of these questions as possible. Appreciate you guys. We've already gotten, let's see, almost upwards of 80 questions or so. So please be patient. They're trying to answer as many as they can. But hopefully in this next section, I might be able to help answer some of these for you all. All right, so how can I get my loans forgiven? I know I just went through a lot of information, right? And if you're still sitting there thinking, okay, this is great. Thanks for the update, Lindsay. But really, what are my options at this point in time? So let's recap a few things. There are two main programs that offer loan forgiveness. There is public service loan forgiveness and income-driven repayment forgiveness. Public service loan forgiveness, or PSLF, forgives the remainder of your loan balance, whatever that may be, after you have made 120 payments, qualifying payments, right? While your loans meet the following criteria. You have to work full-time in public service for any federal government or state, local, or tribal, or any nonprofit 501c3. You have to have direct student loans. All right. If you don't have direct loans, you could consolidate your loans into direct loans. And you have to be making payments on an income-driven repayment plan. All right. So that's how that public service loan forgiveness just broadly works. Okay. And many of you who've attended our webinars before know we go into a lot more detail on those webinars. Now, when it comes to income-driven repayment forgiveness, or IDR forgiveness, this will forgive the remainder of your balance after you have made a certain number of payments on your loans on that plan. And it has nothing to do with working in public service or what employer you might work for. So the amount of time you must pay for depends on what repayment plan or what income-driven repayment plan you're on and your loan types. But typically, it's either going to be 20 years or 25 years. All right. So that's a much longer, sort of payoff and time horizon than public service loan forgiveness, which is 120 payments. If made consecutively, that is 10 years, but you do not need to make it consecutively. So it could be longer. Okay. But income-driven repayment forgiveness is something for those that do not work in public service, an option that they might be able to pursue. All right, next, what do I do if my payment is too high, right? I know that this is something many, many borrowers experience. So if your payment is too high, one of the best parts about Savi is your ability to use that tool to estimate in a personalized way what those options could be as far as any lower payments. So, as many of you might be familiar already, but we're going to ask you some questions about your income, your family size, your employment. All of that is to help us identify, the best repayment and potential forgiveness options for you. So if your payment right now is too high and you're wondering if you can qualify for a lower payment, using the Savi tool is going to be the best way to figure that out. Now, we recommend enrolling in an income-driven repayment plan to help lower that monthly payment, all right, and ensure those payments count towards forgiveness programs like public service loan forgiveness and income-driven repayment forgiveness. Because if you're not on an income-driven repayment plan, those payments are not counting towards that, all right? So again, after entering that information in the Savi application, we'll show you those options for lowering your monthly payment and potentially even getting those loans forgiven. Okay, can I still enroll in an IDR or income-driven repayment plan even though SAVE is on hold? So I know this is a question many of you might be still having. The answer is yes. While SAVE is on hold, okay, you can enroll in SAVE, but when you enroll, you'll be put into this forbearance. Okay, oops, apologize. So again, you can still enroll. Now, the online application at studentaid.gov has been removed. So the only way you can enroll is through paper application, which you'd have to fax or mail to your servicer. And that's exactly where Savi comes in, because we've digitally faxed these applications to servicers since the very beginning. So you're able to submit that application and monitor it digitally right through Savi, despite some of these holdups on the other end. Now, again, if you enroll, you should expect your application to take longer than normal, right? And you might be put onto a processing forbearance for 60 days while they process that. If it's still taking them longer, then you'll be moved over to this general administrative forbearance until there is some resolution with the SAVE plan. But yes, you can still enroll, especially if you are on the standard plan right now and have a really high monthly payment. You're not able to make that next month's payment. Submitting this application, getting enrolled, even getting on that forbearance is going to be, probably a better option for you than missing that monthly payment, especially starting October, when missing a monthly payment will have consequences. So now it's sort of a rubber meets the road situation where, for the past year, if you missed that payment, you weren't going to be dinged. But now, starting October, that's going to happen. So we just want to make sure that anyone and everyone is in a good situation as far as at least being enrolled in a program, even if they're on forbearance, but that will hopefully make their monthly payment a little bit lower. Okay, how can I apply for programs through Savi? All right, so the great thing about Savi is that we're designed to make enrolling in these programs and monitoring those applications as easy as possible, because we realize that that is a tremendous pain point for so many borrowers. So when you're in your Savi account and you've entered in your information, okay, you will reach what you'll see right here on the top left corner, the plan options page. And that's where we show you exactly what those best options can be. You'll see what your new monthly payment amount would be, your total payment over time, how long until you'd be eligible for forgiveness down to the year and month, and exactly how much in forgiveness you'd be eligible to receive. You're going to be able to expand below for more details and compare plans. We really try to give you a picture of exactly what you would be eligible for. Now, it's at this point where the next steps are going to be submitting those applications. And you can either choose to do that on your own through Savi's, what we call our DIY program, our membership. That is completely free, and we will give you instructions in the applications on how to submit those forms on your own. Or you can leave that administrative burden to us, and we can enroll for you. And we make it really easy, but it requires upgrading to either the Essential or Pro plan. And once you've upgraded, we will process not only your income-driven repayment application, as you'll see here on the top right, but any public service loan forgiveness applications that you need to submit as well, as you can see right here in the bottom middle, right? So again, you can get those best options, see what that payment amount could look like, and see what plan you should enroll on. And you can enroll for free on your own through our DIY, or if you'd like to upgrade to Essential or Pro, we can do that for you. All right. Can Savi help me with my loans? Let's go back to the real start and heart of it, right? Can we help? Yes. And I would say this, regardless of where you are in your sort of repayment journey, whether you have just graduated and are going to repayment for the first time, whether you have been paying on your loans for 20 plus years, whether you are behind on your payments and have not made payments, whether you've made consistent payments since you started, whether you're pursuing public service loan forgiveness or other forgiveness plans, or you're not, whether you might be in default or delinquent, or whether you're worried about getting into default, wherever you may be, Savi was designed to be able to help provide you with assistance going forward from that point in a truly personalized way. I like to say student loans are not a copy paste solution. Every single borrower is different. Every single borrower has different needs. And so there's no one size fits all solution here. And that's why we designed our platform the way that we did, because it's designed to be completely personalized to what you need to do based on where you are and your situation. So again, when you go through and enter that information, we're going to show you those personalized options for managing your student loans. And if you decide to upgrade because you like personalized one-on-one assistance, you want us to take on that administrative burden, that's all part of our essential membership. And that's where, again, you can have access to some of our incredible student loan experts, some of which are here joining us today, Katie, Matt, Rafa, and Kyle. They are the actual student loan experts, some of them, I should say, that you would be working with through upgrading to those essential or pro memberships. So you can kind of see them in action in the answers that they're giving to you right here. But we are going to be able to resolve loan servicer issues. If you are having difficulty, getting in touch with your servicer, getting a straight answer, we will help to sort of escalate and resolve those for you. Make sure you're on track for forgiveness. If you're worried about which months are going to count for PSLF, and you're not sure what to do, that's all in our wheelhouse. Again, no concern is sort of too big or too small. We've seen it all, but we're prepared for it all. And again, our goal is to make sure that each of you reach the best outcome possible. All right, so at this point, what are some of the next steps that you can take or should take going forward from today? First, I want to make sure everyone has access to their Savi account. So you can scan this QR code with your phone camera. I'll leave this on here for a second. Just want to make sure that you have your login account set up and that you can access these tools and services that we've been talking about here today. And don't worry, we'll provide a link for access as well in a follow-up email. So if you're not able to scan right now, not to worry. Again, we'll be following up and you'll see something in your inbox in the next 24 hours. And then once you've gained access to that Savi account, we try to make it as simple as possible. Instead of having to fill out and submit a bunch of different applications for these programs, income-driven repayment application, public service loan forgiveness applications, with Savi, we collect all the information we need in one application. We call it the Savi application. It's sort of like a TurboTax for your student loans. And from there, we show you what your best options are going to be. And then we give you the opportunity to decide whether or not you would like to enroll in those on your own, or you'd like for us to submit those forms and continue to monitor them with you so that you can start saving right away. And again, you have the option of how you want to utilize Savi. You can always use your account for free. Enter in that information, get those best options. I want to really reiterate that. That is probably one of the most powerful aspects, right? You can do that completely for free, and that's our DIY. But again, we know and realize how much of a burden these applications can be, especially now because you're not able to submit applications online through the Department of Education. So really your only option is to print that out and try to fax or mail it in, which seems a bit unreliable. So that's why we offer these additional tiers of service so that you as a borrower can get enrolled in these programs and know that you are going to be okay going forward. And past just enrolling, we monitor those programs with you to ensure they achieve the desired outcome. Many borrowers who submit these applications on their own won't hear anything from their servicers. Maybe they get rejected and they're not sure why. And so they really never end up, reaching that finish line. And that's where, you have the Savi team here. We act almost as advocates on your behalf every step of the way to ensure that you reach that desired outcome. So that's really all in that essential plan. All right. That, access to one-on-one support, all of the applications. On the pro plan level, that's sort of our highest tier level of service. It's more of a concierge type of approach, really our most premium type of service where you can actually schedule from your account a one-on-one session, at a time of your convenience with one of our experts who's going to be able to walk you through and have that conversation and help to set up your account. So for those of you who may not be as technologically savvy, I will say, or who'd rather start with a conversation and really get a lot more support, both on the tech side, but just generally going forward, that pro plan is available. And all of these are 100% money back guarantee, no questions asked. We want you to feel confident in being able to take that step, knowing that you have that protection. And the price points of these plans are going to vary based on the specific partner or organization that you are a part of. Some of them actually subsidize the cost of these pro plans or essential plans entirely. But usually they are no more, I would say the essential plan is no more than $70 a year. Okay, a year. That's it. So it usually varies from there depending upon your association. And you can see what that pricing looks like from your Savi dashboard. On the left-hand side, it will say your Savi plan, and you can click and see what options you have available to you. And then, of course, if you ever need assistance from our team, you can click Contact Support, and you'll see we have a help center with amazing content that explains all of these programs, even some of these policy updates that we've talked about here today. We also have the ability to send them a message. So you can contact our support team right from your Savi account. All right, so just to recap again, what is next? Accessing your Savi account, making sure that you filled out that information. Even if you're not sure what steps you want to take next, just by making sure that Savi account is filled out and complete, it allows us to make sure that we are communicating with you about certain topics that may be relevant. We use that information to help inform how we're going to make sure that you are made aware of any important changes that might impact you. So really just making sure that that account is set up, the right contact information, and looking out for emails from the Savi team on what's going on. And then if you choose to do so, enrolling in that essential plan, I think especially right now, because of how much is going on and how it's constantly changing from day to day, even, we are getting guidance from the Department of Education on a weekly basis. And so this is something that is fluid, constantly changing, and it's almost impossible to try to keep up with on your own. But that's our job. And so we're going to make sure that our borrowers are prepared and protected going forward. And then completing those applications, getting enrolled, especially again before October, right? When some of these programs have come to an end. I'll just reiterate, September 30th is the end of the on-ramp to repayment. That means starting in October, any missed payments, late payments, partial payments will be dinged. I should use the word dinged, but you will, potentially go delinquent and then to default if you continue missing those payments. And also the end of September 30th, the Fresh Start program is coming to an end. Again, that's the program where you can get out of default quick. All right, so both of those are ending September 30th. So that's why we want to make sure this October, the beginning of the month, that we are helping to prepare all of you to make that transition smoothly. And again, that's where enrolling and upgrading to that essential plan can really help to make sure that you are covered. Any questions that you may have outside of this webinar are going to be answered, and you can help yourself reach that best outcome possible. All right, so that about wraps it up for today. I am going to see if our team has any questions that might be helpful to answer out loud. Katie, Matt, Rafa, Kyle, are there any that maybe you think would be better answered out loud? I know we had looks like almost over 150, 160 questions come through. So you guys let me know. I know they're gonna continue trying to finish up answering some of these. If they don't get to your question, upgrading to that essential plan and continuing that conversation is going to be the best way forward. So again, we got so many questions that came through. They're doing their best, but if they're not able to, and you want to speak with a Savi expert, on these specific questions, upgrading to that essential, sending them a message through your Savi account, or upgrading to that pro, that's going to be the best way forward. All right. And the QR code is on your screen as well. If any of you would like to access that Savi account. All right. Well, everyone, thank you so much again for joining us here today. We are going to wrap things up. Again, if we didn't get to your question, please consider upgrading to that essential so that you can communicate with our team. We appreciate your time and hope that this was helpful. Appreciate any and all feedback going forward. If the QR code is not working, thanks for letting us know. I will make sure that we in our email out to all of you that we include that link. But we hope that this was helpful. Again, thanks for taking time out, and we look forward to being to help you going forward.